Hello and welcome back to On the Beaten Track. I'm your host, Rihanna. Thank you so much for returning for part 2 of Guts and All. Well, that's what I'm calling it. Thank you so much if you listened to the first episode. In the last episode, we spoke about the connection between the gut and autism. I did a dive into what happens when a good gut goes bad and the effects thereof. We spoke about gut healers, or what everyone calls them diets, but I don't like that, for autistic individuals, and our journey, our family journey on SCD, or maybe I should say Sasha and Enzo's journey on the SCD diet. We spoke about SCD bad list and what we have found to be Enzo's bad list, and we spoke about some lessons learned when it came to organic meat and veg. So today we're going to speak through what the results of his tests were. I tried to condense it and just really zone into the overall results. There's some words that I will be using that I absolutely love. Realized that as I went through this, there's certain words that just, sounds great in your brain. Then I'll talk through progress so far, what the effects we've seen, and lessons learned. Also, Enzo's current eating schedule and what we make for him, just so that I could share some of the really good stuff that we found. Okay, so let's get into it. Before we get into it, I am filming during the day at the moment, so the lighting will seem different. Sorry, Andy. I am still waiting for my block out and all of that, but during the night it's been harder because Sasha's been away and Enzo's been rather demanding the last week, so I'm trying to get the recordings in the day when there is assistance and help from other people. Probably will continue for a while because Sasha goes away again. I'm sure you guys, my first world problems over here. That's why it's looking a bit different at the moment. Okay, so please just bear with me. I hope it's the content, not just, the lighting that everybody comes for. A couple of people have mentioned that they have loved it, so just explaining the difference. The results were a disaster when they came back. The doc again asked us, how does Enzo sleep? How does he eat? And again we said, he sleeps like a champion. He eats like a champion. We've never really had problems with him. Obviously when he's been sick, there has been times where we've had to lay with him, but he's not a kid that we've had to work hard to get back into his normal sleep pattern. He has this Tigger plush toy. It's quite big. It was really funny when he was a kid because it was way bigger than him. He's had this thing since he was 3. It is his soothing toy. It is massive. It's been through the wars. My mom has had to restuff it. The dog has eaten the ears. There's probably 2 other toys he'll go to sleep with, but not consistently. I've tried to find replacements, but some of them just don't look the same. So yeah, Tigger has seen the most. That nose has been bitten to pieces, but that's been his consistent soothing companion going to bed. He doesn't really need us. We generally just go in and put him down. So it's always been really good sleeper and a really good eater. And she said, looking at what I'm seeing, this kid shouldn't be. He should be completely irritable and irritated. Healthy gut, it was not. One thing from all of these doctor's appointments or therapist appointments, there's always one statement or a couple of statements that stick with me. And with this one, it was that he had sepsis in his gut. He had sepsis in his gut. That's how bad it had gotten. You do have to also remember, as I spoke about in the first episode, that when Enzo was born, his stomach was pumped. He always had this kind of bloated stomach going on. I think this was just a culmination of everything, and the gut was just not in a good space. If I make that leap of connecting That's the connection that I make. Yeah, so the sepsis was a big jerker for me. You know, when you hear sepsis, you think the worst, and his absorption levels were in the normal range, but he still had iron deficiency, and we treated that for quite a while with an iron supplement. When the gut got healthier, he could then absorb. But the doc explained that she would see this gut problem with kids like Enzo. So it wasn't abnormal. It was just that his gut was in a particularly bad state. Let's get into what came back from the stool and the wee. It says your child's test showed evidence of inflammation and an immune system activation in the gut. Several markers were outside the normal ranges, which may help explain digestive and behavioural symptoms. For us at this point, a lot of what we were seeing were behavioural. There were certain things that we would see as the gut started healing, or as we were introducing the good stuff into his body, that we probably wouldn't have noticed without going on this gut healing journey. I'm going to go through some of the key markers, so please bear with me. There are some very technical terms. We're going to look at the category, the marker, what the range was, how far out he was, and then the interpretation thereof. And I'll try to go through that as quickly as possible. His immune activation in the gut, which is his secretory IgA, which is IgA, normally what it's called. It's normally between 51 to 200 milligrams per deciliter. His was 1,050 milligrams per deciliter. So way outside the range. So this significantly elevated IgA indicates an overactive gut immune system, possibly due to irritation, pathogens, or food sensitivity. Notably high, whereas a low IgA is normally seen in autistic individuals. So his were completely the other way. The inflammation markers, which were lactoferrin, calprotectin, and lysozyme. The lactoferrin, you normally have less than 7.3. His was 16.3, so just over double. This suggested active inflammation and possibly like an IBD. Then calprotectin, I love that word. It's a great word. It's a really great word. So his was, it's normally less than 66. His was on 66. That's borderline, suggesting an early stage inflammation or immune activity. So you see his inflammation markers are really showing a problem. Then his lysozyme, which is supposed to be less than 600 milligrams, nanograms per milliliter. And his was 1,360. Again, more than double what it's supposed to be. So this supports presence of mucosal immune stress and inflammation. Again, so those inflammation markers, as the summary said, are really showing us that there's a problem. Then from a gut microbiome function, you have your total SCVAs, and I would like to tell you the full name, but I'm not going to embarrass myself. So that was slightly high, but the real problem was that his butyrate, again, beautiful word, was low, which indicates poor fiber, fermentation, or low beneficial bacteria. Last week we spoke about beneficial bacteria and how it gets eroded by the bad stuff that comes into the gut from the large intestine. So that's very important. So it impacts the gut and the brain health. Okay, remember that gut-brain axis I spoke about last week? This is a worrying one. Then we looked at his pH level. He was too acidic. It didn't give us a number, it just said too acidic, which can be troubling for me. And then that just disrupts your SSVA's production and microbial function. So everything is off kilter, those important things. Then your beneficial flora, your good bacteria, is low. And this reduces digestive efficiency, vitamin production, which you'll see from the wee when I get into that, and the immune support and detoxification. We are seeing an inflamed gut that is overrun with low on beneficial bacteria and really looking like there's a complete imbalance. The wee, not as the wee report, that sounds weird. It's like the small report. Okay, sorry. Serious, Joanna, serious. Okay, so the lab report that came back for each was from 2 different labs and structured very differently, whereas the one for the stool was quite thick. The one with the wee wasn't, but was giving us very important information. So, report writing. Who loves it? When looking at the wee, one type of gut bacteria was too high. So, which is part of the gut microbiome, which I spoke about earlier, which is looking at your SCVAs, where we spoke about the butyrate. And this does matter because it is closely connected to the brain metabolism and the immune system function. They do bring up the immune system quite a bit. The one thing with Enzo is that he's never really been a sick child. He's always been quite healthy. We haven't had a lot of bouts of sickness. We understand that the immune system wasn't functioning as it should based on these results, but we hadn't really seen it in real life. The oxalates were too high. These are natural substances found in some foods, and high oxalate levels are often seen in children with autism. They can contribute to inflammation and other issues. I think the one question the doctor asked me at that visit was, how much spinach is he eating? And I was like, it's not at a level that it could provide you with this kind of results. He actually doesn't like spinach, which is heartbreaking for his dad, but he's a lover of the spinach. Enzo, not so much. Okay. 2 markers related to mitochondria, again a great word, were off. So the one signaled stress in energy production, and the other one a possible imbalance in the cellular energy cycles. So when you look at the mitochondria, and please, you can do your own research, but this is my understanding. The mitochondria gives you the energy in your cells. So there seemed to have been an imbalance. We did try to address that pretty soon after we got these results. But the supplement we were given, which is CoQ10, which is quite strong, as the doc was giving to us, and she said it might not work and you might need the gut to heal further. It did not. And we haven't gone back to address that. The neurotransmitter activity was out of balance. The ratios of 2 key brain chemicals, VMA and HVA, related to stress and focus was too high, which could affect the mood, behavior, and attention. I did look at what VMA and HVA is. So the HVA is your metabolite of dopamine. So that obviously affects, both of these are affecting your mood and behavior and ability to attend, be attentive. Then your FMA, which is your metabolite of ephedrine, and neuroephedrine, which is basically a breakdown of neurotransmitters, adrenaline and noradrenaline. Sorry, they're so funny when they just put the NOR in front of the word. You'd understand that those have a massive impact on your behavior, in your mood. Vitamin B2, which is riboflavin, was high. That might suggest that the body isn't using it properly. So vitamin C was completely depleted. Shocker. If very low, well, obviously, vitamin C, your immune system will be weakened, and it also impacts your ability to heal and the mood. So the wee was really coming through with the behavior, mood, being attentive. So it was really coming through with the stuff that we were seeing quite strongly. The stool was getting everything that was in the gut that we weren't seeing or experiencing. But what I'll get into next is the effects that we saw that weren't related to the behavior and mood and attention that my husband and I experienced with Enzo up until we went on the gut healing journey. On the diagnosis episode, I spoke about the diagnostic symptoms, if we call it that, would be indifference to temperature and pain, sensitivity of the gut, reaction, which I did speak about when I spoke about the apples, the grapes, organic meat. I spoke about his sensitivity, and the other one was tickles. Nails to kind of put that. So we'd go maybe where the body was numbed or deadened. We had one incident which freaked us out a bit. He had shown no discomfort or pain. He did start limping when a blister developed, but he had actually had a piece of glass, and like a thin, long piece of glass that had been stuck in his foot for we don't know how long. When we got it out, he looked relieved, but it was really scary that he wasn't showing that he was in pain. Because think about it, if you have a little thorn in your foot, or it really does irritate you. He was showing no discomfort. Since he's been on this gut healing journey, he definitely feels pain more, which is a relief for us because he's nonverbal. It's been amazing to see those parts of his body being activated through the gut healing journey. Then he didn't feel tickles until he was 5 years old. Sasha used to tickle him, no reaction. If I'm not mistaken, Jenny once described it as the body takes everything and starts producing morphine, and it deadens the body. You don't feel pain and tickles. Tickles became, sounds like I'm talking about a person, but it became one of our indicators when something bad had gotten into his system. It's truly amazing and so helpful. Another positive indication that this gut healing journey was really the positive and the correct way to go. As I've mentioned, we've done the diet and supplementation. We've subsequently done tests, another big one probably 5 or 6 years ago, where it went off overseas again, just to see if the gut was healing. Those then brought back different results and different things we could look at, because if you think about it, you might heal the one and you're not really attending to the other. And look, we were healing the gut holistically with the diet, but the supplementation was a really, really important part of bringing in the extra stuff that Enzo didn't have, like zinc. The other big revelation was on medication. We have Enzo consistently on an antihistamine. This has been approved by his ENT. We give it every night. We had to quickly move away from the syrups because of the sugar in them. We then had to be careful about which tablets we took, because a lot of the tablets are sugar-coated, if you didn't know. We once had a problem where the antihistamine that we were using was out of stock, and Granny, who is our pharmacist, have you, Pamela? She brought us another make, but with the same active ingredient. So it shouldn't have had an impact. But oh my word, this kid went bonkers on that. That's been unbelievable how many times we've had to change an antihistamine because there's the unseen. Yeah, it's unfortunate. We just have to stop it, go down to naught, try with something that we know and has worked in the past, and then we get back to equilibrium with him. Make him sound like a level. There's behavior where he's being, like this week he's been very throwy. He wants to throw everything. He's being quite destructive. And then there's the manic. No, he doesn't know how to soothe and calm down. He feels like, out of control, and you can see it. It's not behavior. It's actually like manic. I cannot control myself. So those are the two tippings that we have that we try to correct and always come back to our equilibrium. We've been on this journey now for 9 years, that we stuck mainly to the basics, which is all legal foods. We've struggled to introduce illegal foods. We have supplemented, and his supplement routine has changed quite a bit. Consistently, he's had a probiotic, antihistamine. When we went to the nutritionist said, after such a long period, we could introduce sweet potato, quinoa, and rice. It was an absolute disaster. I think I got excited that we could introduce these things, and I did the worst thing ever, and I introduced them all at the same time. I don't know, I think I was just so excited that you would finally have something like, it sticks to the bones, it sticks to the stomach. Did not work out. After I did the organic veg swap from an actual organic farm and supplier to Woolworths, after a while I thought, okay, maybe I could introduce sweet potatoes. So about 2 years ago, I started introducing certain things, leaving a big gap in between, and just really seeing the behavior post that. Recently, we've had to pull it all back because of antibiotics, but these have been tried and tested, and what works and what doesn't work. The sweet potatoes went first. They were a great success. It was absolutely amazing, and I was just so happy he could have not a potato but a sweet potato. So really a good job. We introduced that. Rice, I tried twice. It was an absolute disaster. And someone said, well, it turns into sugar, Rihanna. Listen, we were here. It was organic basmati rice. It wasn't just tastic off the shelf. I thought maybe, just maybe, this would work. My mom recently has gone through the process of trying to lower her sugar. And the one thing that has worked is putting it in the fridge, and then, or fridge or freezer, and then using it afterwards. So I'm willing to try that. My mom has had great success with that. Rice, potatoes. What else does she put in the fridge? But pasta. Polenta, surprisingly a good success. I've only done it once. I didn't have any negative behavior or like manic stuff. He did recently steal a part of his sister's apple, and he didn't become a drunk kid. I started using chickpea flour, which chickpea isn't allowed, and that's had no negative impact. I've introduced garlic, turmeric, and ginger. Garlic and turmeric are such great natural inflammatory healers. What are we feeding this child, and what's his eating schedule? We make breakfast in bulk once a week. I'll put up a quick short or reel on how we do that. But it is eggs, bananas, nut butter, nut flour. And I used to make like a scramble, but now I'm baking it, which makes it less messy because he loves to eat his breakfast with his hands. Over the last year, I've introduced oats, coconut, and cinnamon. The one big thing about when making Enzo's breakfast or when he's eating bananas, they have to be ripe. And why? So there must be no green, because you know some of the green kind of gets stuck on the end. If it has brown spots, it's better than not. So it has higher levels of soluble fiber, pectin, prebiotic properties. Yeah, it's called FOS. I'm not going to say the actual name. So it's the natural prebiotic. We have tried to do prebiotics for Enzo. I've tried. It's never worked. It's gentler on digestion and it's lower in resistant starch. So if you need those things, bananas, ripe, that's when you're getting the good stuff. He has his bottle with his supplements and medicine. Harriet comes in. She makes him a bottle of, because he still drinks out of a bottle or a sippy cup. She makes him a hot bottle of macadamia milk with cinnamon. He has that while she prepares everything for them to leave. He goes to school. He has an 11 name, like 10:30, 11, depending on how hungry he is. He has food at that stage. So 3 years ago, he was such a hungry boy. We had to introduce an extra meal. And because he's not having like rice and potatoes and things, bread and all of those. So we just felt like introducing an extra meal time was the responsible thing to do. So we did at that stage. Harriet sometimes makes him a nice salad, so she'll boil some eggs for him. Then I'll buy avo, you know, those good oils, tomatoes, cucumber. Does not eat lettuce, so I'm not bringing that in. And he loves beetroot, just like me. I love beetroot. So she'll do that. She bakes treats for him on Friday. Oh, Harriet is amazing, isn't she? So she uses those as motivation or reinforcements during therapy. She uses dates and macadamia nuts, which he absolutely loves. At that stage, he'll also then have a bottle and a fruit. At 2 p.m. or 1 p.m., depending on when he had the other one, he'll have his fruit, food, bottle. Generally, the bottle has the homeopathic remedy in it, Then at 5, he'll have another bowl of food, fruit, with the nighttime supplements and medicine. I've said before, when it comes to food or medicines or him ingesting certain things, he's always been really good at that. Some things we've learned with medicine, getting him to take tablets is pretty easy because we crush it and we put it in his drink and he'll just drink it. That boy has cod liver oil in his drink every night and he drinks it without complaint. So we've been really lucky in that regard. Everything that we do is fresh veg and fresh fruit. I have bought some frozen things in the past, but that's more for smoothies that Harriet or any of the tutors want to make for him. We don't use it in the making of his food. He does have a sensitivity for food temperature. Actual fact, him, Maya, and Sasha has the same thing. I think he likes his food like closer to colder than room temperature. I love my food really, really hot. The rest of my family thinks I'm mad, but maybe I'm the problem, right? I did recently listen to a very interesting podcast, the Neurodiversity podcast, which if you're interested in these types of things, I highly recommend. The host, Emily, is really great. And I'll actually link the episode. So they were talking about neurodivergence and diet and all of those things. It's very interesting that ADHD guys go through sensory things like, I like crunchy food, so the only thing I will eat is crunchy food. So if you want to make me a diet, she was saying she would focus in on the things that they are able to have. Then there was the kind of time blindness where people weren't sticking to their eating schedule and therefore not getting their nutrients in, and how she got away from that. It's really super interesting. So I'll put that in in the show notes for you guys. The one thing I did want to show you guys is what we put in that bottle, okay? So we have recently been using the Rugani juices quite heavily. This is a carrot and turmeric, and if you read the label, which you absolutely always should, it has 98% fresh carrots and 2% fresh turmeric. So yeah, it says consume within 3 days. Absolutely happening with my son. So I tend to buy these. They are great. There is one that has apple in it that we've had to avoid. Also, if you're giving the child the beetroot one, they will look like vampires. So be wary of that and don't freak out. For school, I've bought the tiny juices, and Enzo loves it. It's also a good opportunity for him to work on his straw skills, which is something that we have worked on in the past, and that's been good. We don't actually give him the straw. I think as you go through a long period of time with a child that still has to have a bottle, you realize some of the tips are gelish. He'll eat through that, like within the first week. Or silicone. So I normally give, Harriet has a host of steel straws, and then he really does like coconut water. This is the one we've been using recently. I've used the raw from, I think it's a Cook or something. Again, you have to make sure as you go through the label that it's just coconut. So it says ingredients, organic coconut water. So if you look at it, there'll be extra bits if it's just not coconut water. So very important for you to look out for. He loves the coconut water. Nobody else in the house will drink the coconut water. No, not a fan. Okay, so that's the drinks. Apart from food, we've also switched. When I spoke about him ingesting or stuff getting through his skin, we've changed cleaning products, which includes washing powder, floor cleaner, dishwashing liquid, dishwashing tablets. There's still Windolene and Mistamin, which I haven't found a replacement for, but most of the surfaces are cleaned with something we get from Faithful to Nature. What we wash the kids with, which is the Pure Beginnings wash, which has been amazing. I have also been using the Pure Beginnings. It really is a good product. His toothpaste and his underarm. His nappies I get from Clicks in the adult diaper section. I have used Dischem's. So those are both in-house products from Dischem and Clicks. Clicks has just been more expensive, but more absorbent, and really lasts quite a long time. So we've been on those, and then Pampers Sensitive wipes. So we're really looking at every surface that could bring something bad in. We did have once where something was introduced, and that gave him a rash, got irritated, behavior went off the wall. Once that was stopped, everything stopped. So like I said, a very sensitive little kid. Well, he's going to be 14 this year, so he's not a little kid. Oh, 14. Wow. I've said in the past, if you could reproduce Enzo's gut and give it his sensitivity for like medical trials, would be great, because you don't have to wait that long. You get a reaction within a month. You know what's going on. But yeah, I'm not doing that to my child. But if we do find something, immediately we take it out. So we've come to lessons learned and the important points. I've tried to litter those through the 2 episodes. But let's get into this. I've spoken a lot about identifying the problem. Some of it we could see externally, but only some of it. Like I said, from his urine perspective, we could see the behavior impact from what those results brought us. We didn't know that his immune was compromised because we didn't have that detail without testing. We didn't know that his gut was inflamed because we wouldn't know that without testing, and that his beneficial gut bacteria was low. So when you go through this process, it's important. The testing is really important. It is expensive, but it's such a great start for you to jump off from. Also, something that I found really important was supplementation, and doing all of this with the doc. Reading the results with the doctor, being able to explore it with her, and the nutritional therapist, being able to kind of walk through the technicalities of it before we looked at what we would supplement and what foods we would be able to give him. So that's been really important. We've been lucky that Enzo reacts very quickly to things that we introduce, but you need to be cognizant about what you've introduced and maybe have a measure of how quickly your child, or yourself, if you're going through this, how quickly you react or show an impact of what you've introduced or put into your body, and that's really important. There's two things that we've found really helpful. Firstly is when trying to identify the problem, we've learned how to forensically inspect. We have a standard set of questions that we work through as a couple, or if we've gone through that process, then we speak to Jenny and she kind of works the next level essentially with us. So we've learned how to ask ourselves those questions and what are the things that we need to do. Then if we've reached a point that we cannot identify, one of the things that's been very impactful is to go back to zero. And when I say go back to zero, I mean that stage 4, anything that we've introduced, we really have no qualms about pulling all of that back and reintroducing it. So that's been a real winner for us, is to go back to zero and get him back in that equilibrium of good behavior and controlled episodes. The other thing is that when we introduce stuff, we're introducing it with a gap. Our gap at the moment is 2 weeks. We know he might react within a day or two, and that's generally amazing, but we have had delayed reactions to certain things. It's also important during that time that not only are Sasha and I talking and unpacking, that we're also unpacking with Harriet and Lizzie. So he's with me in the morning, he's with Harriet after that, he's with Lizzie, and then he's with me and his dad in the evenings when Lizzie leaves at 5. So we're really looking at multiple people being with him. We need to be talking when he's going through an episode. Did you experience that? So some mornings he'll be really difficult with me, and then he'll be like an angel with Harriet. When we have bad or disturbed behavior for the whole day, we're really talking about what did we introduce recently? Did we think about this? I think the last thing, which was the irritation on the skin, Lizzie actually found because we were kind of questioning each other. It's always hard when you've been in this position and there's new people on the job. You need to kind of get them comfortable with being questioned without feeling being questioned. It's not an indictment on them, like it is not an indictment on me if Sasha asks me questions or I ask him questions. We're really just trying to find a cause. So comfortability with the people that you work with, to be not aggressive, but being as forensic. Sorry, it's like the one word that makes sense. But how we go through this process and not leaving any stone unturned. We have had tracking sheets in the past, But some of us are not so good at admin. If you want to go on this journey of trying one of these to heal your gut, if you've, understood, try and do it with an expert. I keep saying that throughout this. Using people who know what they're doing, helping us to get better at knowing those things, has only made us a powerful E-team and us powerful parents. It's empowered us in ways that I can't explain, and using food as this medicine and introducing stuff and having a success is so amazing. And he loves it. He loves food. This whole family loves food. There's a whole world of food that Enzo will never have. So we work through the process. We have to actively work through the process. Thank you for joining. That's the end of the gut. If there's anything that you want to know further, I think food sensitivity or sensory integration is so important when it comes to food. Understanding whether your child is sensory seeking or sensory avoidant, all those things I could possibly unpack. But that's essentially what we went through, what I know. And yeah, I hope that you've learned something. I hope there's been good takeaways in it. If there's anything I missed, please comment, please like, please subscribe. I will be constantly posting and getting information out there. We will take a pause on autism for next week's episode, which will be a completely different one, and hopefully you'll find it as interesting. It's a little bit lighthearted, so hopefully you'll all like that. Enzo has been very throwy, like I said. For some reason, he got, I don't know how, he got these photos, and it was just, I haven't seen these photos forever. And he was strewing them around the house, but there was a certain bunch of them that just kept coming up, and I was just picking up. I wasn't really looking at them. And 2 days before launch, he threw this one, and it was a photo of my gran and my niece, my ma Joyce. And if ever, divine, I'm looking out for you. Hopefully that's what you were trying to say through my very behavioural little boy. But thank you. That was a message from up above, and it was warmed the heart, right? So the quote says, "Tell me what you eat and I'll tell you who you are." I love it. But it could go a very difficult way. So thank you so much, everybody, and come back next week for some levity. There's some seriousness in there, but yeah, something different. Bye.